I'm Anne Kruger. Welcome to the program, coming to you this week from the Royal Queensland Show, or as it's more commonly known, the Ekka. And while beef cattle are obviously a big slice of the action here, the competition's just as keen for a blue ribbon in other traditional show categories.
In the top 20 or 30 cheeses here, most small cheese makers, commercial makers, would be very pleased to be making that style of cheese and as well as they've technically been produced.
But first to politics and the sheer power of green preferences. From July the 1st, the red gum forests on the Murray River floodplain were proclaimed as a national park by the New South Wales government. Conservationists are hailing it as a triumph, but border communities accuse Labor of selling out local timber jobs in a backroom deal with the Greens.
In the vast red gum forests of southern New South Wales, emotions are running high.
I know there's families at home there now, little people like us. I know that are sitting there crying at night, wondering what they're going to do. I mean, you know, this is a Labor government supposed to be looking after Labor working class people. I mean, how's that make any sense? You know? Yeah, look, sorry.
Some are angry, others too disconsolate or bewildered to appear on camera. Most feel devastated and betrayed.
It was really the timber that built the town, and to have all that sort of ripped from under you for no really sound reason is pretty devastating.
Early last month, New South Wales Parliament passed legislation which made most of these forests national parks. For conservation groups, it spells victory after a long-running intensive campaign.
We have outlasted 5 environment ministers and 4 premiers in the last 5 years, but the outcomes have been worth it. The conservation gain for the threatened species in the red gum forests, we believe, is one of the most significant gains in the conservation in New South Wales for many years.
But for residents here, it's a bitter, sudden, resounding defeat and the end of a lifestyle spanning many generations over a century and a half.
It'll be environmentally degrading, really, like a lot of these green-driven policies.
Few environmental issues polarise people as much as timber harvesting. The new national parks won't be logged, shutting these locals out of the forest. Within weeks, their saws will fall silent, and regional jobs, perhaps as many as 500 directly and indirectly, will be gone.
But the trouble is, we haven't got any future for our children and our grandchildren, and no future for the town. We can't see a future. So look, we're just completely devastated here.
Rural communities are accustomed to bearing the brunt of adverse decisions made in capital cities far away. And they are quick to blame it, rightly or wrongly, on political conspiracies.
To see an industry go down the gurgler for the sake of green preference votes in Sydney, people that have been able to campaign and change the whole lives of so many communities along the Murray.
I guess it's fair to say we understand there's a big green wave, and that wave has come over the top of us in this community, and we know that in terms of the political environment, this is about green votes and not about the science.
Such a claim might be readily dismissed as the customary complaint of timber workers, except that many here allege to have heard it in person from the mouth of Frank Sartor, the New South Wales Minister for Climate Change and the Environment.
This is the Gulper sawmill at Deniliquin in southern New South Wales. It was here in January at a meeting of timber workers that Minister Sartor made a most extraordinary and brazen comment about the real reasons behind the closure of these red gum forests.
Or so it's alleged.
He said, I'm going to give you people a lesson in politics. The Greens hold 15% of the votes. We need those votes to stay in power. They also want or need a national park, and they want it in red gum.
And he said, the Greens have 15% of the vote. And I remember that figure because it's a figure that we dispute down this way. And he said, we're going to need their preferences to survive the next election, and they want a significant national park in red gum.
Of the 30 or so sawmillers at the meeting, about half say they clearly heard the minister. Most say they will sign a statutory declaration to back their claim.
Did you overhear him say that this was not about protecting the forest, it was about politics? Did you hear that?
Yeah.
What were his words?
He more or less said that they needed a couple of suspect seats in the Sydney suburbs that they wanted to hold and gain. Green seats, seats.
Minister Sartor has since denied the claims under parliamentary oath. And that has further strengthened the resolve of those in the timber communities to expose what they see as a gross injustice.
Then a month after that, Ian Cohen, the leader of the Greens, reinforced that with an interview in Sydney in which he said that Labor's going to be desperate for the Green preferences come the next election. And he said if they don't deliver sustainably on the red gum, they can go to hell. So there is no doubt that this is being sacrificed for political gain.
Frank Sartor declined to be interviewed by Landline on this issue. A spokesperson said he was unable to spare the time because his workload was especially heavy as he was preparing to go on holidays. But Ron Wilson says the Red Gum National Park is yet another example of minority state governments desperately trying to stay in power by cutting preference deals with green lobby groups.
I mean, there's a Victorian red gum decision, there's the Brigalow decision up in northwestern New South Wales, there's now this red gum decision of May this year, and I understand from my colleagues in Queensland that a large part of the cypress forests up there are being scheduled for national park.
Ron Wilson is a forester and former senior New South Wales public servant. He alleges the state government put a gun at the head of the timber industry. Take the compensation package now or risk walking away with nothing.
The people making the decisions in the city, well, if they lose a job, they can sort of walk around the corner and look for another job. But this is the shame of it, really.
The state government has devised a multi-million-dollar buyout deal for the timber industry.
The package that's come from the government, which I think is about 97 in total over a period of 3 years, will go nowhere near replacing an $80 million a year industry.
The National Parks Association disputes that.
There are only small numbers of people employed in this sector.
Glenn Gray's business at Backroom on the Murray River will close by Christmas.
It's been 16 years now since we've been started making the red gum furniture, and our resources has really disappeared now, so no more resource, no more furniture.
Some of these tables sell for $20,000 a piece. 8 jobs will be lost here.
We've gone to a lot of effort to do what we felt was required to show that we were value-adding the red gum to its highest possible end use through furniture and veneer and various products like that, and a tremendous amount of expense has gone into infrastructure and research and development and promotion, and we're not reaping the rewards for all that cost and effort.
Glenn Gray and his employees do not qualify for any government compensation. The new national parks cover more than 100,000 hectares of what was formerly state forest. It was already listed as internationally significant under the Ramsar Convention. And logging, carefully scrutinised by the New South Wales Forest Department, was not considered detrimental.
But look, it's a pretty easy sell if you're a green. You know, you show a picture of a tree being cut down or some wildlife, and it shocks people. You know, people have an innate fear of seeing trees cut down.
Do you think timber harvesting of any form is compatible with management of this forest?
No, the association believes that active forestry in these areas are not conducive to good conservation outcomes. It is a threatening process that undermines habitat significantly, in our opinion.
The town's pretty devastated by it. The timber industry's been our core industry here for well over 100 years. In fact, the town probably wouldn't have got going without the sawmills in the early days.
Mathara resident and retired journalist David Joss has found early accounts which show the thick red gum forest has proliferated since white settlement.
Red gum is recognised as a shade-intolerant species. It won't grow naturally unless you get sun on the seed, down on the soil.
David Joss believes changes to indigenous burning patterns and the arrival of sheep and cattle, which removed the native grass cover, allowed more trees to flourish.
And that gave the red gums a chance because they'll grow like weeds if you give them the right conditions. And they were getting plenty of moisture because back then the river flooded 8 years out of every 10.
The growth rate of these forests is at the heart of this debate. A recent state government commissioned report placed heavy emphasis on predictions that climate change will dry out these wetlands in future, thereby slowing tree growth and making timber harvesting less sustainable. For sawmiller Chris Clump, that's hard to swallow. He has just weeks until he's barred from the forest, but it's been so wet this year that he's racing against time.
It was just the only thing that they could come up with. They couldn't come up with threatened species or endangered species because they've been looked after. They just used the fear of climate change and drought and unsustainability to actually close us down.
Ray and Cliff Hall may be the last of their kind. The twin brothers, now 75, have worked together cutting timber since they were 14.
Well, the fact of the matter is the bush has been looked after. It's like with flooding and that, it's like a wheat crop. It germinates and comes up thick, and if it's not thinned, nothing will grow. But if they're thinned out, like the industry's been doing, and the forest is better off because of that.
In faraway Sydney, the National Parks Association admits that the Red Gum campaign caused ructions within its own ranks.
You know, it's certainly polarised the conservation movement as well, because it's, you know, this was a significant project we felt, and we've had some people that have participated with the campaign, but others feel that there was other areas that were more of a priority.
The sudden end came as a surprise. The industry thought it would have a 5-year period to assess issues of concern. 2 years ago, the government endorsed the industry as sustainable.
I'm hurt more than anything because we believed in people. We believed people that were telling us the truth and they weren't. I said, and that's really hurt us people down here.